Chef Nick Leahy of Salt Yard Restaurant. Today we're going to be making a little brine chicken with a caramelized onion velouté. It's one of my favorite meals to make at home because it's very easy and it's very versatile. So a velouté is one of the 5 mother sauces of French cuisine, and just like with all the mother sauces, once you learn the basic technique, you can make 1,000 different variations of it, so your family won't get bored of having the same thing for dinner all the time. If you miss anything during the recipe, just scroll down to the bottom. There's a complete list of ingredients and the recipe from there. All right, let's get started. So one of the most important things I think about cooking chicken especially, but really a lot of different meats, is doing a brine. It does a couple different things for you. A, it keeps your meat super moist, so it makes it a little bit more forgiving in case you leave it in the oven for a second too long. Not that I ever do that, but you might. The other thing it does is it lets you season the meat from the inside out, so you really get seasoned meat permeated all the way through as opposed to just on the outside. So the first step, we've got a little bit of boiling water right here. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of sugar. In this case, I'm using dark brown sugar because I like the depth of flavor it gives you. You could use white sugar, you could use sugar in the raw, and here we just have a little bit of salt. And that right there is brine in its most basic form. All you really truly need is the salt and the sugar, but just like with the velouté, it's whatever you want it to be. So you can add all different kind of flavors in here. You could add booze if you want to add a little bourbon into your brine, goes great with pork, fresh herbs. Really, it's endless. Whatever flavors you have going on in the rest of your recipe can really work in your brine as well. In this case, we're just going to do a little bit of garlic, and I've just smashed it, and I've left the skins on and everything like that. Pop those in there. That was 5 cloves. And then in here, we just have a few cloves, a little bit of allspice, and some peppercorns. And all you really need to do with the brine is to get it up to a simmer so you can dissolve your salt and sugar. And once it's at that point, cut it off. And what I do is I add ice. You won't see this in some recipes. They'll just tell you to have all the liquid you need in there, bring it up to a boil, and then cool it down. But that's just a waste of time. So if you use half your liquid to get the salt dissolved, and then you put ice in and let it melt, then it's ready to go on your meat right away. Because what you don't want to do is put hot brine onto the meat because you'll start cooking it. We don't want to cook it right now. We're just trying to infuse it. And for a brine, you want to do at least an hour, up to 24 if you have time. Now we're just going to go ahead and pour it over our chicken. And like I said, at least 1 hour, and if you can do overnight, even better. So now we're going to go ahead and get started on the velouté. So velouté is a fancy French word for a stock that's thickened with roux, and we're actually going to be making a derivative that's called a supreme, which means it has cream in it as well. So we just have 4 tablespoons of butter here. We've got it over medium heat. And what we're going to do, typically making a roux, you would add your flour right now, and you would cook your roux. My old chef used to tell me it should be the texture of wet sand. But we're actually going to build our caramelized onions and garlic for the sauce in the butter and then build the roux on top of that. So we've got Vidalia onions, very sweet onion naturally. And you want to cook these first before you add the garlic, because in the time it takes the onions to get a little bit of color on them, which we want to build flavor into the stock, your garlic would get burned and very bitter and would ruin everything. So while they get a little bit of color on them, we can go ahead and start cooking our chicken. That way everything will sort of get ready at the same time. I'm going to go get the chicken that I brined yesterday from the fridge. So we've got our chicken in the brine here. So you just want to shake off all the excess. That way when you put it in the cast iron, it won't spit at you too badly. And give it a quick pat dry. And since we've got all the flavor from the brine in there already, we're just going to do just a very simple salt on there. All right, so you can see we're starting to get a little bit of color on our onions here. We want to get them nice and golden. They don't necessarily need to be dark brown. We can go ahead and add our garlic. So we've just got our garlic cloves here. I've got them sliced kind of nice and thick because I like them to be pretty present in the sauce. If you want them to be a little bit more subtle, you can just mince them a little bit finer. And from this point out, you got to kind of pay attention to your sauce pretty continuously. For one, you don't want to let it cook and get the garlic burnt, and then once we add the flour, you can't really walk away from a roux because the flour will want to burn in the edges of the pan. Okay, so we've got nice golden color on our onions. We're going to go ahead and add our flour. We're just using AP flour. And you want to add it little by little and stir it so you don't get any lumps while that's going on. If you add it all at once, you'll end up with clumps. So our roux has now cooked away the raw flour taste. We're going to add the stock first. And once again, you want to do this little by little. If you add it all at once, you'll end up with, once again, clumps of flour in your sauce. So if we just stopped right there before the cream, that would have been the velouté. But as I said earlier, we're adding the cream in to make the derivative sauce called sauce supreme. The cream just gives it a little bit richer texture, a little bit silkier mouthfeel, which I really like. So you can see we've got a really nice texture now. You can see the little bits of caramelized onion and garlic flecked through there. Give it a little bit of a seasoning at this point. And then what you want to do is make sure you bring this up to a bubble, because the thickening power of the roux isn't activated until it gets to that temperature, so you won't know how thick your sauce will be. And if it's a little too thick, you can just add a little bit more stock. All right, we've got some beautiful color on our chicken there. And that's one of the reasons you really want to make sure you pat the chicken dry as it comes out of the brine. You don't want all that water on there because it'll prevent it from getting that nice caramelization. So it's a very simple garnish for this dish, but just to give it a little bit of brightness and lightness, just going to do a little bit of chopped parsley on top. So create a nice tight little pile like that. Just run your knife through it a few times. You can see our veloutés come up to the bubble now. It's a little too tight, so I'm just going to take a little bit of extra stock, add it slowly in there. You want it to be rich, but you don't want it to be too heavy and stodgy. And that looks about perfect. Looks like our chicken thigh is ready, so we're going to go ahead and plate up. First step, just get some of our velouté down in the bottom, nice and rich. Put our chicken right in the middle there. Quick little sprinkle of parsley, and then a tiny bit of paprika just for some color and flavor right at the end. And there you have it, brine chicken thigh with a caramelized onion velouté. For more recipes like this, please visit springermtn.com. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.